Nice to have you all here. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
This is the Voter Education Outreach Advisory Committee meeting, and we're all happy to see you all here. I'm going to do a quick introduction. Then after that, Jim Irizarry, the Assistant Assessor Clerk Recorder and Assistant Chief Elections Officer, which is a very long title, is going to talk about the Star Awards. Then we're going to get an Elections Division update from Sarah O'Brien and Hilary O'Connor. And after that, we'll get an update on redistricting from Yahaira from Thrive to talk about what the new districts look like, because now that the whole process is over, it'd be good to know how that affects everybody. And then after that, hopefully we'll have some time to share out. So first of all, I'd love it if everybody could introduce themselves in chat. So your name, your organization, if you're with an organization, and maybe a little, what are you hoping to learn today? Give us a nice idea of why everyone's in the room. So before we get into things, I want to let you know about a couple of things coming up with Thrive that I hope you could all join us for. So the next slide. Our Children Education Thrive Action Group is going to be talking this afternoon at 3:30 about funding that's coming down. So for everybody who's involved in after-school programs, there's a lot of money coming from the American Rescue Plan and from some interesting state funding. So we're going to be talking about that, and everyone's welcome for that. The next event that is coming up is a new series that we're doing that basically is for the purpose of responding to whatever's going on. Because as we've learned this last year, a lot of things have been not planned, unexpected. So this is going to specifically focus on the surge. We will have Dr. Curtis Chan from the San Mateo County Health talk about what's going on with kind of the recommendations coming from the county. And then in addition to that, we will have the Chief Operating Officer from Ability Path talk about how, as a nonprofit, they are managing the surge. And hopefully there we'll have some good conversation about what everyone's doing and give each other guidance. And next, if anybody's interested in our environment and sustainability group, that is also open to everyone. We're going to be talking about energy efficient buildings and homes. And with that, we will go into our agenda. So as I said, I'm Petra Sultan, the Director of Advocacy and Education for Thrive, and I co-chair this with Diane Leeds and Sarah O'Brien. So I just want to introduce yourselves. And then Sarah, can you go ahead and just transition and introduce Jim after that?
Diane, I see your mouth.
Okay. Diane Leeds with San Francisco Peninsula People Power, and along with Petra, again, co-chair of the VEOAC, as well as Sarah.
And I'm Sarah O'Brien, and I typed in that I'm with the elections office, and I'm hoping to learn about everyone's interest in outreach, new ideas, and skills that you all bring. And if Jim is available at this time, I know we have quite a few people from the elections office on the line. But just to mention, we have my supervisor, Hilary O'Connor. I have seen, let's see, Tristine is on. She's mentioned in candidate filing. And we have, let's see, Travis Dunn, who's our management analyst and does contracts and, makes us all dot the T, what is it? Dot the I's, cross the T's. And we should have Jim. And I believe that is everyone from elections. And if Jim, are you ready to tell us, speak to us? Well, maybe we'll continue with the rest of the elections update until we can know we've got Jim. Oh, is there a possible change in status? All right, well, We were going to talk about for elections, some of the things going on. And actually, Tris, I don't want to put you on the spot, but one of the things, of course, is candidate filing. So with candidate filing, you don't have people coming in quite yet, do you? Oh, yes, she's like,
no, candidate filing period right now is still in the signatures in lieu period. So we do have less than 20 candidates who have pulled their paperworks. But yeah, our candidate filing period starts on February 14th. But right now we're just focused on the signatures in lieu of filing.
and one of the most exciting things I think we have is that we have a new language, and I've sent an email about that, that now, in addition to always doing things in English, Spanish, and Chinese, we're also going to do things in Filipino. So that means the I voted sticker needs to change. Now, temporarily, at least, we're looking at the I voted sticker getting a quick fix and adding I voted in Filipino. But we, depending how well that's liked or not liked, we also had been hoping to do some sort of design contest. So it's not something we could do fast enough for June because we need the sticker like now at the printer. But anybody who has fabulous design background and wants to, mention to us that they have some ideas on including 4 languages of I voted, we would appreciate it. And now let's see, I will look, anytime Jim's available, of course, he can cut in on me. And in addition to candidate filing and stickers, our vote by mail team has started with ordering the envelopes for the election. No big change, no changes to the envelopes, right, Hillary? No changes?
I will not say no changes. I will say there have been some minor, teeny tiny little things that we did to it. Like we added a stop sign. We put some things in burnt orange that were previously in black, some things that we kind of wanted to highlight. But yeah, they're nothing earth shattering or devastating.
Would that stop sign be for people to sign?
Yeah, it says something like "Stop! Did you do something?" Yes, it was. It used to be just words, and we added some graphics. I'm graphical. I like pictures of things rather than words of things. So yeah, we put a little stop sign just to kind of draw people's eyes to it, to make them, oh, I should look at this because there's a picture.
Mm-hmm. So besides the little changes on the envelopes, so vote by mail is getting started. With all the deadlines they have to meet in order to get that ballot out in the mail. Goodness, it'll be the beginning of May. But that means usually early April that the printer starts saying, where's your list of voters? Because we'll be mailing it out to some 430,000 odd voters. And let's see, in addition, we're hiring extra help, our seasonal staff. So anyone who has an interest in working for the elections office, we'd love to have you or your friends, family, and past acquaintances if they're interested. You can find the elections openings on the San Mateo County Human Resources career page or on the elections page if you go to smcvote.org, it'll take you to SMC Acre, and there will be a little highlight on that there are jobs available. That's about it that I had of the big things. I think Jim is ready to talk about even bigger things. Jim, are you ready to speak to the VEOAC?
Yeah, thank you and good morning. We've been having some mic issues here. So thank you very much, Sarah, for doing your report. And thank you all for being here. It's always great to be here with the VEOAC. And we have some exciting news to provide you. Our staff and our advisory committees, such as the VEOAC, the LAC, and the VAC, are to be credited with 2 awards that we received from the STARS Award program, which is a very prestigious award here in San Mateo County that is provided to departments for exceptional work. And a committee, an independent committee, reviewed the awards this year for all of San Mateo County departments and provided the Assessor, County Clerk, Recorder, ACRE, 2 awards. One award, which we're extremely proud of, is really for our voter education and outreach program as it relates to our diversity, inclusion, and equity that we use community-based organizations to basically go out in the community as trusted messengers. And the effect of the program is what was really, I think, the most important point in terms of targeting populations that traditionally have not participated in the electoral process, youth, seniors, etc. And the rate of increase of participation was significant. As you know, we had Mindy Romero from our consultant, and forgot the name of her organization right now. She just changed her name a little bit. And she wrote a report which basically focused in on many of the increases, the actual increases in voter participation of these groups. And it was pretty amazing. It was remarkable. We shared those figures with the STARS Award group, and lo and behold, we won the STARS Award for that category. The other category is one that really was more internal, and it was part of our technology initiatives. And we had one of our employees, we've been talking about how we can improve the vote center experience. And as you know, vote centers, some vote centers, we have 45 vote centers in a large election, experience higher wait times than others on certain days. In speaking to Ivan Barragan, who's also here, and I'm going to turn this over a little bit to Ivan in a moment, we developed what was called a wait time widget that you can go on our website, and you can actually see the wait times, the locations of all of our vote centers, and know exactly if one vote center is experiencing a high volume of participation versus another vote center that might not. And that's the beauty of the Voters' Choice Act, is that you're no longer limited to one precinct or one polling place location to cast your ballot. You can go to anywhere in the county. So a voter can go on our website, look at the wait time widget and say, oh, it's 45 minutes an hour and it usually doesn't get that high. I think the highest was about 35 to 45 minutes. And in some, there is no wait time. So it gives the voter an opportunity to choose. Again, that's the fundamental premise of the Voters' Choice Act, is just that. It's voters' choice. You can choose to vote at a vote center, you can mail in your ballot, you can drop off the ballot at a ballot drop-off location. Voters have choices. And this wait time widget really is keeping in the spirit of the Voters' Choice Act. I'm going to turn it over quickly to Ivan to talk a little bit about our wait time widget.
I have not seen him.
Okay, well then, Travis, could you talk a little bit about that? If not, I'll just go ahead and jump in and talk. Well, I basically explained it.
Sure, yeah. So this was the first year that we have tried the wait time widget. You know, reducing the wait times at vote centers has been a big focus of ours since we transitioned from the polling place model. So we've been, over the past years, you know, doing things like taking the surveys in vote centers to see what motivates people to want to come. That's what, for instance, inspired the mailing of the voting stickers to folks. So with these sort of technological solutions, we're really getting where we have less and less wait times. And in this last recall election, I don't think we had a single wait time more than 15 minutes at any location at any time. And it's been very helpful to voters. We found through the live chat feature, people previously had been sending us messages asking which ones had the shortest lines, which has for the voter, not an efficient way to get that solution. So we've been pretty happy with the use numbers we've seen, and we think it really contributed to how efficiently things ran, which ultimately is all to the good to the folks who, want to exercise their option to cast their vote in person.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Travis. I was hoping to have Ivan here because he was the technology whiz kid behind that program. Obviously, it required some adaptations to our technology. And just a little bit of background on it. We have 10x e-poll books. For the last couple of years, we've been using that, which has really streamlined the effectiveness of intaking voters at the vote centers. And 10x provides a dashboard and just a tremendous tool for both, as you can see, the public and in our employees in managing the flow of election data, people into our system. And using the 10x tool and their dashboard, we're able to track the actual number of people that are being intaked into each vote center. So that translated over to the dashboard, which then translated over to the vote time widget. And it basically won the award. It's in San Mateo County. It's called the Green Award for programs that provide environmentally impactful programs. And it was felt that with the wait time widget reducing travel to the vote centers and making it easier for people to make those decisions lowers the carbon footprint. And that in turn basically not only is good for the environment, but is also good for the efficiency of voting. So it won the Green Award. We're very, very proud of that. And it did take some thinking, and it did take, of course, the best technology, which I see we have in San Mateo County. I've always mentioned that the success of vote by mail and the success of the Voters' Choice Act are basically four main issues. And that is, of course, to have the right laws that are in place that give us the procedures to follow in a vote by mail environment. And the people, of course, to be able to manage those laws and those procedures. And equally important, all of these are important, is the technology that we need to deploy. And San Mateo County has invested significantly in our Dominion system, has invested in our 10x poll books, and they have been incredibly successful and efficient in our elections. And then finally, of course, is leadership. Leadership is essential in making the right decisions, everything from the type of technology and people you hire to adjudication and how those are ultimately resolved, and calling it fairly and equitably for everybody. So that was our wait time widget. I would like to just mention some quick, statistics with respect to our voter education and outreach that was, I think, very impressive, that we communicated to the county, and every time I read it, I am even more impressed. But the results of our citizen advisory groups in promoting and increasing voter participation have been impressive. During the 2018 gubernatorial primary election, a 10.2 increase in the registered turnout rate for Latinos and a 10.2 increase for Asian Americans increased substantially over the previous 2014 primary. Similar 2018 statewide general election, Latinos and Asian Americans experienced a 22.3% increase and an 18.8% increase, respectively. These increases in voter turnout are directly attributable to the county's impressive voter education and outreach program. And during the presidential primary election, recorded a 54.8% voter turnout, and with the November 2020 general election, a historical 86% voter turnout, the highest voter turnout in over 15 years. Of course, all of this was accomplished during a global pandemic, and was the direct result of our advisory committees, such as the Voter Education and Outreach Committee. So my congratulations to this group and to all of our citizen advisory committees that provide essential counseling and advice to the Chief Elections Officer. And it has been an award-winning level of advice that you folks have provided. So thank you very much. I'll answer any questions that you might have. Okay, I'm seeing chat questions. Let me see.
Yeah. Well, Jim, first of all, just want to say thank you for sharing that with us and congratulations to the office for winning those awards. That's really fantastic. And we'd love to have, if you have like a little write-up of that you could send us to share with the whole committee, we'd love to send that out.
And one thing that I forgot to mention, which is probably one of the most important, is that we will be recognized. These programs will be recognized at the Board of Supervisors meeting on February 22nd, I believe. So February 22nd, all of the county's departments that won STAR Awards will be giving brief presentations. And of course, it's a virtual meeting, but we will certainly be there acknowledging the efforts of the VEOAC, the LAC, and the VAC, and of course, our employees that were so instrumental in putting these programs together. Any questions? I'm seeing questions in the chat.
Let's go ahead and ask people if you have a question to just get yourself off mute and be brief, but we'd love to have questions directly.
I have a question on the phone when everybody else goes.
Go ahead, Mike.
Actually, two quick questions. One, if we find somebody who feels like they can design a sticker, who do we get in touch with, Sarah or somebody else?
That would be fine, Mike. Anyone could get in touch if they speak to Jim, but I'm probably the person to track that stuff down.
Okay, and then I think this is a follow-up. I guess I heard that the announcement deadline or filing deadline was February 14th for candidates, and then I think I heard in the past that about 20-some days or 30 days beyond is the signature deadline.
Right, Christine, you want to jump in?
I'm sorry, I had a question from a staff. Could you repeat that question again?
Yes, it is February 14th is the filing deadline, but then there's a signature deadline or qualification of signature deadline. I don't know the right term.
So the signatures in lieu of filing fee actually started January 3, and the deadline for that is February 9. The February 14th date is the start of candidate filing period, and the deadline for that is March 11. There's also extended candidate filing period if the incumbent did not file their paperworks.
I see. So the signatures are prior to even filing. Okay, I got
Yes.
it.
You're welcome.
Anybody else have a question they'd like to ask?
Questions
Okay.
in chat. I see some questions coming up in chat, and we can reply in chat if you'd like.
S has a question. Could you take yourself, put your camera on and let us know who you are?
Yeah, hi. Jim, you know me, I'm Sabrina Brennan, and I'm wondering about San Mateo County's lack of apparent interest in open source voting. It was really interesting to learn that the Little Hoover Commission, which is a state commission, has recommended open source as the future for transparency in voting. And it's my understanding that San Francisco is moving forward with, moving towards open source voting. So I'm wondering, if you would be willing to make the Little Hoover Commission report on open source voting available on the elections website so that the general public would have access to that information from the state and understand that open source is a viable option and one that would be in the best interest of voters. I don't know why that hasn't already occurred in our county, especially since San Mateo County is, located in Silicon Valley, and we should really be on the cutting edge of voting technology. So I'd like to just make sure that you and the county is making open source options visible to voters so that they know that they can ask for that. I understand in the past, whoever, the deciders are, have shunned it, but I think this keeps coming up, and now we have a state agency or organization, I should say, the Little Hoover Commission, that's been around for a very long time, recommending it. Thank you.
Sure, and thank you, Sabrina. If I could take a couple of minutes on that, because that was somewhat of a power-packed question. First of all, let's set the stage for selecting voting systems. It's a process that's governed by law and procurement requirements. And we entered that process back in 2018 with basically replacing our old Hart InterCivic system. We embarked on a process that was significant voter participation. We invited members of the VEOAC, the LAC, the VEOAC, and every group that was interested in San Mateo County to participate in the selection of our new voting system. We took a year to do that, and we spent many, many months. We had Michael, for example, here on the VEOAC. That was instrumental in looking at how those systems work. So what we did was we went out with an RFP as required by law, with a request for proposal to every voting system vendor in the United States that could meet the requirements of San Mateo County, which basically are the state certification requirements. And then also the requirements that were set forth by our advisory committees, which were part of that process. When we went through that, we then developed an RFP. We sent out requests for proposals to open source vendors, and we welcomed their participation. Not one open source vendor submitted a proposal. We had basically two proposals that were ultimately evaluated, and that was from Dominion Voting Systems. ES&S, the largest voting system in the United States, did not apply for the RFP, and we had Hart InterCivic. After an extensive process, we selected Dominion. And Dominion was selected for really a variety of reasons. But primarily is the safety and security of the data. Open source is in the process of being developed, of being matured, if you call it that, in terms of technology. In elections, we can't take any risks. We are risk adverse. Having the source code open and available to everyone in this environment, with nation state actors, with criminals, with ransomware, with malware out there, is a very, very dangerous business to be in. Until those systems can meet those state certification standards, open source is not a possibility in San Mateo County or the state of California. When they do, they will be invited to participate in the request for proposal. They will be evaluated by this committee and by other committees that we have to assist us in making those determinations. After going through that process, this committee and the other advisory committees recommended the use of Dominion. We entered into an agreement with them, and we did it specifically on a 3-year lease. We didn't purchase it, to see if there were going to be better systems online and what we can do. So we leased a Dominion system for 3-year increments. We're in the second term of the 3-year lease. It's totally 9 years. And That's basically how we structured this to give us the flexibility should there be better systems that come online. But they are going to have to meet state certification standards. Does that answer your question?
Adria has a question as well.
Hey, y'all, sorry, this is actually on a different topic, so I don't, if there's more to wrap up here, I don't want to.
Yeah, Adria, this is Brett. Let me just finalize this little piece. I think Jim knows that the certification process is at issue when you're dealing with proprietary software systems, and that the open source folks are currently working with the Secretary of State to evolve the certification process, which is considered a broken process right now due to the proprietary software nature of the programs. So in going toward open source systems, there will naturally be an evolution of open source certification standards, which the smarter folks that are involved in these technology efforts will gladly be participants with the Secretary of State. So it's a bit of a misrepresentation to try to put open source systems in a negative category, saying that they're not evolved, when in fact they are leading and already in Mississippi conducting presidential elections. So to frame it as though there's more work to be done is kind of true, but it's a little bit disingenuous, and I think Jim knows better. So we take a little bit of offense at that, and thank you for everybody's time on this issue.
So speaking of time on this issue, I think this is a little bit beyond what the VEOAC is chartered to do. So I'd very much like it if Brent and Sabrina, if you could take this conversation offline with Jim, because we have a lot that we need to cover in this meeting, and this is not the primary purpose of the VEOAC.
Except when VEOAC stands up for Dominion and other proprietary systems, that's a problem.
Okay. Adria, go ahead with your question.
Thanks, and thank you so much for to the whole elections team for sharing all this information. Congrats on the awards. I wanted to ask, and I apologize if this question is better suited to another section of the meeting. Please feel free to put a pin in it. But I know there was mention of the new Section 203 language coverage of Filipino, having the Filipino language group added, which is really exciting. But also I was curious to hear if y'all had discussions about what to do with the new Section 14201 determinations, which cut the covered languages, and it's a bit of a tight time frame in terms of making such drastic changes to the coverage. And so I was wondering if y'all had discussed your plans for what you would do in June and beyond, and looking at what the community needs and what you would provide.
If I can take a quick crack at that one, and that is that's the whole purpose of our advisory committees, is to be advising for all of those different elements in an election. We are working right now, for example, on languages and how to provide the ballots at our vote centers and the methodologies that we're going to be using. It's pretty incredible, and you're all invited to actually see the process on creating a ballot and then creating it in the 4 required languages, and also the facsimile language. It really is quite a very technical and detailed process. And our staff has come up with we're working on that right now. It's come up with some recommendations on how to do that, to make sure we have those ballots at every vote center, and so that they're easily accessible at both on-site, and also, of course, you can request them online. We can mail you those ballots. So it's a very elaborate process. We can probably take a whole meeting on that also. But yes, our staff is spending quite a bit of time, particularly in the development of the official ballot, on how we're going to do that. And they've come up with some really good recommendations that we'll share with you as we move the process along.
Hillary, go ahead.
I just had real quick, because most of, or quite a few of you are aware of Michael Louie and who he is and who he was to us. His baby daughter was just born at 3:30 this morning. Thea Corin Louie was born at 3:30 this morning. Everyone is doing fine. That's all.
Yeah, pass along our best.
Yes, that was important. Give him our best for sure.
Sorry, if I could just follow up really quickly on my question. I apologize. I was
Yeah.
just like trying to look something up really quickly. I think I just wanted to check in about basically like the languages that had been dropped from the determination. So like in the previous, election, under section 14.201, there was like Burmese and Hindi and Japanese that were covered, and under the like latest determinations, I think they are no longer covered. And so I think my question was more, is there a plan to continue offering facsimile ballots, and sort of providing support in those languages in the June primary, and kind of like what the conversation has been around there?
Jim, you're muted.
Sorry, I'm having mic issues all morning here. To answer your question directly, yes. The state, well, removing those languages is required. San Mateo County, the chief elections officer, is elected not to do so. So those languages will be continued in San Mateo County.
That's wonderful to hear. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
So Jim, we were talking about outreach and what a great job the collaboration has been. And so what I'm wondering is if what we can look forward to for June, if we can look forward to the same voter outreach funds, and what the timing would be for that, and how that could all work.
San Mateo County, particularly with their advisory groups, we have perhaps one of the best business models in elections for advisory and resident participation in the electoral process. There's a saying that goes, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And this ain't broke. And what really it is, it's a model for others to follow. We are not going to tinker with that. We're going to build upon it. Mr. Church has requested, and so far we have received approval for equal funding for what we have received in the past, so we can see that in these upcoming elections. We are even trying to eke out some more money for that, particularly for the November election. But to answer your question, it is a great business model that we're going to continue to build upon, and we see that occurring in the upcoming primary and general elections.
Do you know what the timing? Thank you, first of all.
Yes, thank
more
you.
important than anything else. Thank you. That's terrific. We love the collaboration. Do you know what the timing will be? Because what I think that one of the things that we want to make sure we do is really reach out to a lot of different community-based organizations so we can get to places where we haven't been.
Timing is like previous years. And what we're looking at right now, we are in fiscal year 21-22, and we have money set aside for that purpose right now, so we can begin planning that. In fact, we already have. Sarah has put together basically a budget, an overall budget in draft form. So we're working on that, and we will be sharing that with you shortly.
So no ideas because obviously we'd like to get any RFPs out quickly, because I think especially with the last election, we had such a short time frame. There wasn't a lot of time for some of the organizations to really do a lot. So we're just hoping to get a little bit more of a head start before June.
Yeah, and that was particularly true with the recall election, where they gave us about 2 weeks to figure it out. The whole election, which is about a 160-day process, we had to do it within 90 days. So yeah, that was somewhat of an anomaly, but we hear you loud and clear, and you'll be hearing from us shortly on that.
Thank you, Jim. Any more questions from Jim? For Jim, sorry. From Jim, if Jim has questions too.
Just again, more of a comment on behalf of Mr. Church and myself. Thank you so much for the great work that you do. We're here to listen and to provide this type of resources that are necessary to make this a success. We're excited about the upcoming election and elections, we really are starting to think now of the presidential election, which primary will be held in 2023, which is about a year from now. We're going to be talking about the actual presidential primary. So this is the misnomer here is that elections takes a vacation in off years. It doesn't happen that way. And the other thing that we can also talk about a little bit in giving kudos to the advisory committees is our ADA improvements to Tower Road. The VEOAC has been absolutely incredible in getting accomplished what staff couldn't do in the last 5-6 years through the budget process. And there have been members of the VEOAC, Ben in particular, who's been meeting with the Aging Commission. And for the first time, we actually had the Department of Public Works allocate $1 million for ADA improvements to Tower Road. So that's absolutely great news. That definitively would not have happened if it wasn't for the VEOAC. Guaranteed. And it's like you folks. The money for voter education and outreach, you can remember back in 2018, was zero. Okay, we were just barely going to get maybe $50,000, and your involvement resulted in $450,000 being allocated. So I cannot overstate the importance of your advisory committee's input into the process and your support. It is really having a payoff in so many different ways. And the ADA improvements is a classical example of that. We hope to actually start construction for the ADA. We're in the planning process right now in January 2023. So just a lot of good things. Again, I want to thank you all for your tremendous participation and efforts. There's really been a significant payoff, not only in the services that are being provided to voters, but also in the physical plant at Tower Road with this ADA improvement.
Thanks, Jim. And that's nice to hear. And a big congratulations to Ben and Mike, who are on the phone and are part of the VEOAC as well. I'd like to turn it over to my colleague, Yahaira, who's going to just show us the maps, the new maps that came out of all the redistricting process, because it's relevant both on the county level and state and national level. And can you please stop with the chat so I don't have to block the whole chat? Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Good morning. I hope everyone's having a good morning. My name is Yahaira Ortega, and I am the Policy Advocacy Associate for Thrive Alliance. I've inserted in the chat the link to our website, and I will go over on how to get to our redistricting site that has just been newly updated. So I'm going to share my screen, but feel free to follow along. So once you hit this, you're going to see our main site. This is where you can sign up for any additional events. Then you go into special initiatives. You can head over to civic participation. And under civic participation, we have a lot of tabs, but what we're looking at today is the redistricting. So this would be under past initiatives. And here you'll find new county maps and districts, redistricting resources, and other resources on how to get involved. So I'm going to go over a couple of changes that have been made to our county pertaining the congressional districts, the state senate, state assembly, and then finally the board of supervisors districts. So as we can see here, we have an image that shows the current congressional map and then the new congressional map. As you can see, this includes large changes for San Mateo County. The map splits the county into eastern and western halves. So if you live on one side of this line, you'll be on this district, and you'll be on the other district if you live on the other side. The eastern portion of Peninsula will now be grouped as a congressional district from Daly City all the way to Redwood City, including East Palo Alto. And the coastal side will reach from Pacifica to Pescadero, inland to Palo Alto and Mountain View, downward all the way towards Los Gatos and parts of San Jose that we can see here. You can zoom in on the site. Then we're going to move on to the state Senate districts. The state Senate districts include regions such as South Daly City and Northern Santa Clara will be more intact, and considerable changes are happening in the southeastern part of the Senate district. The district will now include Cupertino, Saratoga, Campbell, Los Gatos, and more. And you have a lot of resources here you can read on and how this might affect who comes into office. Then we're going to move on to the State Assembly District. So the State Assembly District has changed quite a lot. At the moment, Mark Berman and Evan Lowe would be in the same district. So there are news of maybe one of them moving over to the next district to make sure that they can run for that position. So again, you can read more here. And then we're going to move on to the county districts. As you all know, we had a very interesting and large participation when it came to the Board of Supervisors and their districts. I see Jim Lawrence here from the Redistricting Commission, and thank you for all your work that you've done. The Board of Supervisors adopted a Communities Together map, which include minimal changes, so not a lot of changes happening directly in the county. And then you can see some redistricting resources here, such as online tools. If you want to get familiar with any tools to redraw your districts and get ready for the next 10 years, you can look here, and other resources on how to get involved. And I'm happy to take any questions.
One of the reasons, oh, go ahead, Mike.
Oh, I don't have to go first. I'm just letting you know.
You were the fastest.
Okay.
You get to go first.
I can't see the map, so I'm wondering when you talk about these different areas, let's just take the eastern and western congressional, I guess is what you described. Currently, Daly City, at least where I am, was in 14, I believe, for Jackie Spear. Are the numbers changing or just the shape of the numbered areas?
The numbers have changed as well, because I know I used to be in Congressional District 18, which was Anna Eschew's, and now it's 21.
I see.
So the other thing is if you go to the smcvote.org website, there's you can, and again, I'm not sure if this will be helpful, Mike, but there is a way where you can click on that link. It'll take you to a map, and you can put in your actual address and see what districts you're in at the different levels. Because sometimes it's hard to tell on the maps where the district boundaries are.
And this might be important somewhat to people. I don't know who it would affect more, but technically, when do these new numbers take effect? Like, I get registration forms all the time. You know, your assembly district is this, your senatorial district is that, state legislature. And when are we supposed to start filling things out or talking to people about the new district numbers? Just after the elections are completed in June or some other time?
Mike, this is Sarah, and I was going to say, you don't have to fill anything out. I mean, all these changes kind of happen behind the scenes in terms of you don't re-register. We'll let you know your new districts.
No. I didn't mean
Okay.
election registration. I'm talking about registering for a webinar or registering for a conference. They ask you sometimes which district you're in because they want to either make, breakout groups from that or whatever. And I'm just saying society is going to want to know what district you're in some situations when people are in conferences or webinars or surveys or who knows what for data.
Well, technically, they've been adopted.
So they're in effect now, is what you're saying?
I believe so, in some way.
Oh, yes. My congressional district, I should say 21.
No, so they're not actually in effect until the next election has happened. So
Well,
they
that's what I
will
meant.
be, yeah. So until after November,
Somebody actually
they're
takes
not in effect.
office?
Until
Okay.
until the new people take office. Is that
So,
correct?
No, you vote for them come June.
Yeah,
Right. You're voting for them, but the district lines, as far as I
But you
understood,
have
don't
to
switch
know
until the
your
new person's in.
It takes effect in the June primary. So the new lines are in effect in June.
For who
And-
you're voting for, but who your representative is doesn't switch over
Right.
until November.
Right, that's correct.
I just want people to be clear that, they need to be careful in some situations if people start responding to things with their particular district numbers when they have to do that for which situations. It's not going to be trivial. Okay, thank you.
Well,
I
Sarah, weren't
think-
you guys working on some literature that was going to advise people what their new districts are?
we have been working on what I call the redistricting postcard that would go out in the mail with all the new districts. I see Jim is here too, and maybe he wants to address the redistricting question we were just discussing of when it takes effect.
And we have a meeting in an hour too.
Sounds good. No, this is very.
It is my understanding that it's in effect now, and for, like Rachel said, for the June election, you will actually be voting in that district that's been carved out. But the actual impact won't be until those people take office. So they take office in November, I believe. So,
if I can quickly.
but you're voting in the new districts when the voting occurs in June.
That's what it'll say on my ballot is,
Yes.
District 21 and not District 14 or whatever it is.
You're not
Correct.
Got it.
Hello?
Go ahead, Jim.
You're on.
Okay, yeah, I'm talking and then I'm realizing that I'm not being heard, which sometimes is a good thing. And we've been having some problems with the mic, but really this is a very complex process. And when you talk about redistricting, you have to really define what districts are we talking about. At the state and federal level, that's pretty much already been decided. The Board of Supervisors, just worked on its district maps. But when we talk about assembly seats, we talk about congressional seats, we talk about, basically state and federal. Those have been determined. It's the ones right now that at the local level that are embarking upon a determining of their district lines. We have sent out just yesterday, a notice to all jurisdictions that we will be meeting with to talk about what we need from them to define their actual district lines for purposes of precincting. Our primary interest here is to make sure, number one, that at the local level, now we're talking about, the board already took its action. Now we're talking about cities, school districts, special districts. They are working on their maps and their territories right now. I believe we have, and I don't know the number right off the bat, about 11 that are going from at-large to district elections, and they need to determine their boundary maps and their territories for those new districts. They need to submit them to the elections office, who in turn is going to meet with, they have to do it in a certain format. And that format is basically a GIS shape file. And we have one of the best GIS systems in the state, so it's helping in the process, but the jurisdictions have to do their part first and then get them to us. There are different dates that their maps have to be submitted in order to be able to be effective for the election that that's going to be affected by that. So with respect to redistricting, it depends on the office, whether it's state, federal, Board of Supervisors. Those pretty much have been taken care of right now. The ones that we're working on in terms of the local jurisdictions, we are in that process right now. We have asked all of the jurisdictions to have their shape files into us by April, and then we will be able to precinct the actual, fit the precincts in accordance with the code, the elections code, into those new areas. Very, very technical, very, very complex process. And we're hoping that by April, we will have that completed.
Thank you.
I see a question from Elsa. Go ahead, ask your question, Elsa.
Thanks so much. I'm just curious, and I think probably this group can't comment on it, but I was quite stunned this year, or this past year, to have such a strong outpouring of interest in our county, particularly on the redistricting, and to have a very broad-based coalition of groups representing different citizen groups to be very interested in changing more significantly a lot of the county district lines, such as for the Board of Supervisors elections. And then to hear that the vote was I think it was an 8-7 or something like that, but on the actual commission, the balance was a 1 vote in favor of the map that was adopted later. And to see my district particularly, which goes from Menlo Park to all of the coastside areas, it just feels like such a mix. And I don't see, in a county with 60% people of color, I don't see any way for more underrepresented groups, particularly given their populations, to elect representatives.
I'm going to have to cut you off because, first of all, because we only have 1 minute left, and second of all, because that is a very long discussion and really not our core of what we're doing right now. But I'd be happy to talk about that ad nauseum after this, but we only do have 1 minute 1 minute left, and I want to just make sure that we talk about what we're going to talk about next time, which is really kind of the getting into how we're going to reach all of those communities. One of the things that actually came up in the redistricting commission was like, well, maybe it wouldn't matter that much if everybody voted. Maybe we should do better outreach, said one of the supervisors. And I'm like, we're doing a lot of outreach. So I really want to make sure that we have a plan, and that's really our focus of our next meeting, to make sure that we really are getting to every corner of the county. So we'll be talking about that then. Diane, do you have any closing words?
No. But I mean, in terms of the redistricting, yeah, I mean, it's definitely beyond the kind of the scope of the VEOAC, though obviously it directly impacts voter participation. There will be more happening in the redistricting arena from the coalition that was built. And so anyway, we're not done.
Thanks.
Yes. If anybody wants to hang out, talk a little bit more about that, happy to. But anyway, the next meeting is on February 16th. We look forward to seeing you. Thank you guys all for being here, and we'll send a follow-up.
Okay. Thank you.